Hello there again. Today, I thought I'd talk about something a little more abstract, but I've always found kind of interesting the idea of, and that's benches. Benches of any kind stone, wood, wire, wicker, anything like that. And of any shape and size as well. You got really long ones. Sometimes it's for one person, or it's in the middle of a park made out of plastic, or you find it deep in the woods by a pond. They're always got a story to them, and I think that's very neat. Every piece of furniture has a purpose, to sit on it, to put things on it. But benches are very versatile in the amount of places they can be, the people they can hold, the stories that they tell. I remember as a kid, a lot of times, I always found it weirdly upsetting to see an empty bench, or an old bench that no one had clearly sat on in a long, long time. Something about the idea of a bench being unused, forgotten for its desired purpose, made me really sad. I remember my mom would make, and she still does, she'll take like a cute little plot of land and fill it up with little miniature plants and flowers and succulents, and then put in little props like a miniature water fountain and a stone path and usually some benches. And I remember as a kid it would make me weirdly sad because I knew that pixies or fairies weren't real, so no one was gonna sit on those little benches. And even though it was literally a bench made out of wires, it still just kinda made me sad. And I remember for a long time the house at the corner of our street had some old people living in it. So they had a pretty nicely kept yard because they had a company that did it, but the bench at the far end of the yard was never sat on, and I slowly watched it decay over the years, and there was always more weeds by it because they didn't want to mow underneath the bench, and it always made me sad because I knew that no one was using the bench. The bench wasn't holding any story anymore. Maybe it did one day, but not in the time that I had been there. Eventually the old people moved out, and now there's a new family there, and I've actually seen someone on the bench, so that makes me pretty happy. A lot of benches that I really enjoy are ones that you find that you weren't expecting. There's this man across the street from us who's an engineer, and he has designed a lot of interesting things in his house. And beyond his house is a little ravine with a creek that runs through it that's heavily shaded by the woods. And sometimes I would go run around in there, look for frogs and things. And I remember one day I was just walking through listening to music in my teen years, and I found a bench. It was made out of just a ton of stacked up stones. I don't know if the stones were from the creek or if they were from somewhere else, but it was a nice little bench nonetheless. And I sit on the bench and I looked around, and there's another one. An old cement one covered in moss that had clearly been brought out there, but it was still very old, like an antique. And as I walked along this little ravine, there was 4 or 5 different little benches. Sometimes they were made out of a log or stacked rocks or just old cement or even a plastic one. And I don't know the last time anybody sat on them, but something about these little hidden benches that probably only that guy uses or curious kids like me find. It's nice. It's a little shared story. You can see the weather eroding away at those benches and the way that they've lived through the seasons and the little critters that have called them home. And all you think about the people that have sat on those benches. What did they think? I remember I sat on one of them and I watched this red squirrel go up and down a tree, and it kept chittering at me because it was loud and angry. And I don't know, I sat on that bench for like half an hour to an hour just thinking, who else had been there? Who put it there? How long will it be there? It's just kind of interesting. Another bench that I particularly like is, there's this one spot in the park near us where you walk up this really steep hill, and at the very, very top there's a simple wooden bench that the park system put in, and you can overlook the hill that you just hiked all the way up. And it's nice because the hike up there sucks, so not many people go up there. But if you do go up there, say with some ice cream, or I've gone up there with my boyfriend, and you hang out, you look around, people don't bother you, you get a nice breeze. It's really nice, watch a spider crawl by and look at the wildflowers that are blooming near your feet because not enough people come by to trample all the path. It's really neat. I think that's the only time I've marked something, like in public. Like, I never carved into trees or did graffiti or anything, but I did put mine and my boyfriend's initials on the bottom of that bench. I don't know if he has as many fond memories of this area as I do, but I still like it, and I go there at least a couple times every summer. Even if it's by myself or with a dog, I love that bench, and I hope it's there for a long time to come. Another bench that I only recently discovered is there's a cemetery, maybe like a 15-minute walk from me, and it's actually where my grandpa's buried. And if you walk all the way into the back around the access road, there's a little area where more recent, it's like a wall of memorials for people that didn't want to buy an actual gravestone because they're expensive. But it's just this serene little area with a garden that's nicely kept up in the walls, and you can just reflect. And there's a bench there, right in front of the wall, so you can look at the names or the little things, the crosses and plastic flowers and fairy lights that people have left for their past relatives. And it's really nice. I just sat there the other day. It's not where my grandpa was, but just thinking about who else has sat here, who lost someone, cried here, remembered here. It's really amazing, all of that, just on a piece of wood and metal. The final bench I wanted to talk about was one in our very own yard. Our bench, if you will. It's been there for only 5 or 6 years, maybe more, and it's a nice artisan-made stone bench where the sides are made out of giant pieces of stone from a riverbed. You can even see the ripples of where the water used to be, and it's all put together by cast iron. My dad got it for my mom as a gift for an anniversary years back because she's been eyeing it at a art fair several years in a row because it was made by a local guy, and she always wanted it, but it was really expensive, but God was it gorgeous. My dad finally went out and got it for her, and it's my mom's favorite place to sit outside. We've spent many a night having campfires with friends and family and sitting on that bench. I've had all of my rats on that bench. I've had my dogs on that bench. I've had my friends and my boyfriend and my family on that bench. Once we move away from this house someday, because it's gonna happen, maybe sooner, I don't know, I hope we take that bench with us. It's heavy as hell and we'd probably have to get a crane, but I'd like to take it. There's a little matching side table now too. A lot of memories on that dumb bench, and it's weirdly comfortable. So, and I know it brought my mom a lot of joy. So, it reminds me of her and my dad and all the people that I've spent times on that bench. So that's why I like benches. It's kind of like that, oh, if walls could talk, what stories would they tell? But condensed to a single object that goes beyond the walls of a home or a building. They can be out in the middle of nowhere in the Grand Canyon, or on the top of a little hill in Ohio, or in someone's yard, or a little piece of metal in a fairy garden, but they always have a story. Even if that story is a sad one, there's always a story there, and I think that's really cool. So, future Emily, hopefully you still have that stone bench, and hopefully you still sit on it, maybe with your new friends if you still have them, or some old ones.